and welcome. You're on to a fresh edition of Power Wheel, a production of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN. This half-hour program showcases the prospects, challenges, and giant strides attained in the power sector. Please keep following all the guidelines for preventing the spread of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. The headlines. Chad Republic requests electricity supply from Nigeria. Senate urges stakeholders to solve power sector challenges. Federal government supporting power firms to improve electricity supply services, says Minister of State Jedi Agba. Stay with us all through this edition for a delightful experience. My name is Chinwenwa Anyao. The government of Chad Republic has formally requested the Nigerian government to connect the country to the Nigerian electricity grid. Here's the report.
The request was presented by the Chadian ambassador to Nigeria, Abakar Saleh Chachiami, during a recent working visit to the Minister of Power, Engineer Saleh Mamman, in Abuja.
Déjà en son temps, en 1976, il y a eu des études de faisabilité.
The major problem of Chad is that of power. It's a lifeline for Chad, and it plays a key role. And we know Nigeria is a key player in the sub-region. Our needs are more than others, and we feel that we are entitled to it due to historical relations between the two countries.
While describing the need as pressing, the ambassador stressed the historical and economic value of connecting Chad to Nigeria's electricity as a means of continuous collaboration between the countries. Reacting to the request, Engineer Mamman welcomed the development, stressing that it will help in enhancing the long-existing relations between the two countries. The minister said the request from Chad Republic came at the best time as he reassured the Chadian envoy that Nigeria will evaluate it within the various projects under the Transmission Rehabilitation and Expansion Program TREP for possible integration of the request.
The request from Chad Republic comes at the most appropriate time, and I want to assure you that we will evaluate this request within the various projects we already have in Nigerian Transmission Expansion Program, and those we are planning to come up with a means of integrating your request. The Transmission Company of Nigeria and those representatives are part of this meeting are to come up with a business case and implementation modalities based on what we will write to the presidency to issue all the necessary approvals. With abundant gas resources in Nigeria and the effort of the present administration of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to strengthen the power sector as well as ease of doing business in the country, Nigeria has a potential to generate and export low-cost electricity to the sub-region.
He further informed the Chadian delegation that currently Nigeria has bilateral contracts for supplying electricity to Niger Republic and Benin Republic, which have been ongoing for decades.
Currently, Nigeria has a bilateral contract supplying electricity to two of its neighboring countries, namely Niger and Benin Republic.
The minister also said, through the West African Power Pool (WAP), an 875-kilometer distance of 330 kilovolt power transmission line is being built under its North Core transmission line projects to interconnect four countries.
We are developing on the establishment of 875 kilometers, 330 kV line called North Core transmission line. This line will interconnect the four countries, and Nigeria will be the key supplier of electricity. This project got the concurrence, acceptance of the World Bank, African Development Bank, and French development agencies to finance different segments of the proposal transmission line.
The minister approved the request to host his counterparts from the Republic of Chad for a technical analysis of the request.
Therefore, I want to assure you of our commitment to regional integration and security. I thank you very much.
In the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, we transmit bulk electricity from power generating companies, GenCos, to distribution load centers of various distribution companies, DISCOs. Nationwide, we do not generate electricity, neither do we distribute same directly to electricity consumers. TCN has two business units, the Transmission Service Provider, TSP, and Independent System Operations, ISO. The ISO comprises of System Operation, SO, and Market Operation, MO. The business units all perform specialized functions under the TCN umbrella. Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, wielding power for national economic growth. This message is brought to you by the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN.
The Senate Committee on Power has charged stakeholders in the power sector to synergize towards solving all challenges in the sector. Here's the rest of the story.
The chairman, Senate Committee on Power, Senator Gabriel Suswan, gave the charge at the final day of the public hearing on power sector plan and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic at the Senate building of the National Assembly in Abuja. He said the objective of the session was to ensure that the National Assembly was well informed towards supporting power sector operators in the resolution of the sector's challenges.
All of us, we need to be frank, because this has become a big problem for the country. We are trying to solve a problem that touches and concerns all Nigerians. On that note, we start this presentation with the market operator.
The session was the concluding segment of the public hearing organized by the Senate Committee on Power. The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, Engineer Sule Abdulaziz, and his management team were at the session of the public hearing to speak on how TCN manages the electricity market through the market operator. In a presentation, the market operator at TCN, Engineer Edmond AJ, called for enforcement of discipline in the electricity market to operate effectively.
The market can only be sustained if it is allowed to fund itself through enforcement of market discipline and, of course, compliance with the market rules. In 2019, our average for services was 74%. Now, how did we come to 74%? Instead of 21% we were having. From January to May, we were having 20%, 30% at most. But in May 2019, somehow we went through our books and insisted the rules must be complied with. And because the regulator had told us you will not recover 100% of your tariff, we were asked to recover only 50%. Now, from that 50%, if we recover less, the operations of TCN would be grounded. So we insisted that the rules would be complied with. And of course, I thank the DISCOs, they complied, they understand, and they started paying that 50%. And that's why we were able to make the 74% in 2019.
Engineer AJ also responded to a series of questions from the lawmakers after the presentation. He highlighted the constraint of payment for energy consumed by the customers of the distribution companies, DISCOs, as a factor that has caused the liquidity challenges in the Nigerian electricity markets. Other heads of agencies in the power sector made presentation to the Senate Committee on Power at the public hearing.
Let's take a break. The program continues shortly.
Do not build under transmission power lines for your safety and health. Electricity power lines and substations, either for power transmission or power distribution services, are extremely dangerous when exposed to direct human contact. These power lines and substations transmit electricity that lights up our homes and offices, power our computers, TVs, and refrigerators. On the other hand, the same electricity when exposed is extremely dangerous. It can shock, electrocute, and kill anyone on its way. That is why everyone must adopt safety measures whenever we use or are close to electricity facilities like power lines or substation or transformers. For the safety of the people and animals, governments all over the world have approved way leave or right-of-way of 50 meters for 330 kV power lines and 30 meters for 132 kV power lines, and for 33 kV lines the way leave is 15 meters. People are not expected to be found within this way leave or right-of-way for safety reasons. The lines can suddenly cut and fall to the ground with very disastrous consequences such as fire and electrocution of anybody and destruction of anything, be it vehicle, houses or vegetation on its line. It has also been established that power lines and substation emit electromagnetic fields, EMF, which is dangerous to human health. The World Health Organization, WHO, has warned that people who spend long hours under or close high-tension lines stand the risk of being affected by EMF and be vulnerable to cancer, leukemia in children, miscarriages among pregnant women, and other terrible diseases. It is therefore advisable not to build any structure or operate any business under or near any electricity high-tension lines or substations. TCN wants you to stay alive, stay safe, stay healthy, avoid power lines. This message is from the management of Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN.
As a company that gives foremost priority to the health condition and safety of staff in the workplace, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, held a fire evacuation drill to sensitize staff on the process of firefighting and maximizing safety.
At a safety and evacuation drill held at the TCN corporate headquarters in Abuja, the health and safety officer, Mr. Ejegba John Davy, demonstrated the process of extinguishing fire with state-of-the-art firefighting devices to the staff.
That is fire extinguisher. This is called the CO2, carbon dioxide. A fire has just occurred, and that is at the incipient stage. What you do is that this particular fire extinguisher, the CO2, it has a pin. That is the pin, the safety pin. You remove the safety pin before you start. Then you direct, please, remove the safety pin, direct the extinguisher to the base of the fire.
He also showed them the indicators for an active fire extinguisher for users to be able to detect its expiration, as he further lectured the participating staff on the steps to take whenever a fire alarm goes off.
Anytime you had an alarm, it might not be in this building or in this building. Emergency doesn't need a psychedelic movement. You run for your life because it's dangerous. You run for your life. So you walk briskly and you don't take the lift.
On fighting domestic fire, especially in the kitchen, he demonstrated the process of smothering fire using the fire blankets.
You should have them in your kitchen, please. Have them in your kitchen. When there is fire, you try to smother the fire. It's meant for smothering. So 1, 2, 3.
He said users of gas cookers should ensure the gas cylinders are placed outside the house, far from the stove, to control the flame when such a fire incident occurs.
90% of us use gas. When there is a gas fire, please, normally the burner will always be inside. Please let us make sure our gas cylinder is outside. And whenever there is fire, don't panic. Just go to the cylinder, just shut it off. You have cut off the source of supply.
Electricity supply is one of the essential services in high demand across homes and industries. According to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, there are about 10 million registered electricity consumers in Nigeria. In this edition, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, in an effort to help electricity users understand the dynamics of the power system, explained the models of power generation and the role the company plays in facilitating the supply of electricity to households and industries.
Engineer Mustapha Raji of the National Power Training Institute of Nigeria, NAPTIN, explained the value chains in the Nigerian electricity supply industry, NESI.
We need to understand that electricity have 4 basic steps in terms of its value chain. The generation, transmission, as well as distribution, and finally the consumption where the loads are connected. Now for the generation produce the electrical energy, which is represented with the generator and a transformer, and then you need transmission where you have the transmission lines that transport the energy to various locations. And then you have transformers in different substations where you can either step up or down the voltages as required. And then you have the distribution where you have different lines. You connect your customers or consumers with respect to the voltage they require in their consumption.
Engineer Raji said electricity could be generated through the conventional system or using the renewable energy approach. He said the conventional approach provides the bulk energy through hydro, thermal, or nuclear, while the renewable uses solar, wind, biomass, geothermal, and small hydro.
Basic modes of generation generally in Nigeria are hydro and thermal systems. In hydro, as you can see in this animation, you have water that gets into a pipe called a penstock at a very high pressure, which heats some turbine blades here called the hydro turbine. These blades are heated by the highly pressured water. It turns the turbine blades, which is interconnected with a shaft to a particular generator. And this generator finally produces the electrical energy as a result of its interconnection with the turbine.
He noted that the renewable energy component is mostly used to supplement the conventional system. They include wind turbines for rotating turbines, solar photovoltaic panels that convert sunlight into electrical energy for consumption. He said the small hydro form rotates small turbine to produce electrical energy.
These are some of the ways we can get renewable energy, and it means that in this system, the source of the energy will not run out, and therefore the name renewable energy.
Engineer Raji further explained how generator electricity is transmitted or transported to the distribution companies for onward supply to electricity consumers. He said the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, which operates all transmission infrastructure in Nigeria, interfaces with the generation and the distribution section of the value chain for better stability, reliability, and management.
The transmission system is at the middle, receiving from generation and equally given to distribution, so the interface between the two to provide a very good stability and management system. In this system, you can see we generate electrical power with a generator at, let's say, 16 kV, sometimes 11 kV, depending on the system, and then you take it up into a generator for step up. This generator takes up the power from 16 kV to 330. This 330, which is very high, is required because of the lengthy distances. You now use transmission lines to transport these 330 kV lines, and then you need another transformer to step it down for the utilization of some levels. And this one steps it down to 132 kV, which is equally a high voltage. And then you need another substation to take it down to some medium voltage levels of 33 kV and 11 kV. And some of the customers require it either at 33 kV or 11 kV, depending on the requirement of the customer. And then finally, you get another substation where you have low voltage, either 415 volt 3-phase or 240 volt single phase. These are mostly for small residential and commercial customers.
The electrical engineering experts also explained the purpose of a transmission substation in the electricity supply process.
This is a transmission substation that gives you the chance of providing better control and protection of this kind of system.
For the distribution system, he said it was the final link to reaching consumers with electricity supply.
The electricity distribution, which is the tail end of the value chain generally. If you generate, you transport through the transmission lines, and then you have receiving substations where you can manipulate and transform the voltage levels to the requirement. So at the distribution level, you have substations either underground or overhead distribution line system. You can have some smaller transformers that provide supply to different customers.
After serving so many years in Abuja, you go back home, you don't have light among your people. Maybe you have light in your own house. How would you feel? You got light, the whole community has no light. There's no way of improvement. You're not going to feel happy. So I feel that we should give those people attention more than we give ourselves in the city, because there's where we come from. You don't plant from up down. It grows from down up. So if we grow them, we'll grow our nation.
Verify that land before you buy it. To drastically reduce the incidence of building under the transmission right-of-way or encroaching on designated TCN land, members of the public are hereby requested to verify land near or along transmission line route before purchasing it. Verification should be made in the Land Development Authority or at the TCN office. This would help in drastically reducing the incidence of building under transmission line right-of-way and save us all the problem of pulling down the structure or truncating transmission line expansion projects in your community due to court injunction. Help us serve you better. Verify that land before you buy it.
That is it for this edition. Let's meet next week for another time on Power Wheel. This episode and the previous ones are available on our YouTube channel. You can always interact with us on these platforms as you support TCN in realizing its goals of advanced bulk electricity transmission services. Please remember that you are a partner in the quest to defeat the COVID-19 pandemic. Continue to wash or sanitize your hands regularly. Practice physical distancing rules and all other preventive measures. Together, we can overcome the coronavirus pandemic. I am Chinwenwa Anyao. Goodbye for now.